The fourth NHL coaching change of the season has taken place. Welcome to NHL Wraparound Short Shifts for Friday, December 27, 2024. Vic, Morren, and Neil Smith with you. And Neil, coming right out of the Christmas holiday, Derek Lalonde, replaced by Todd McLellan as the Red Wings coach. Assistant Bob Boughner was also relieved of his duties. And considering this comes right out of the holiday, how do you surmise that this entire process went down from the notification of the firing to the hiring of McLellan and his assistant, Trent Yawney?
Well, I know that Steve Yzerman had talked to Luc Robitaille about McLellan for a couple of times, and Luc Robitaille, of course, is the president of LA Kings. Todd McLellan last coached with the LA Kings, probably had some money still owed to him there because he probably had time left on his contract, so that they have to get permission from the Kings before they can talk to McLellan. I would imagine that he's been talking to him for a few weeks, meaning Robitaille, and probably when it came down to that Steve had made the decision, say it was a week ago, he probably started to talk to McLellan then about if this, then that, be confidential, so on and so forth. They probably got the deal finalized right in and around yesterday. It could have been Christmas Day or Christmas Eve, but they got the deal done then. I would imagine Todd McLellan said, well, I want to bring at least one guy with me, and I'd like to bring along Trent Yawney. And so that meant that the associate coach, Bob Boughner, had to go to make room for Yawney. So that's another complication because you've got to work out that thing with him. So when Steve pulls the trigger on this, he's got to make a phone call first to Derek Lalonde, second of all to the associate coach, Bob Boughner, and then he's got to have his PR department make the announcement of the coaching change. And so it all happens real quickly. The first thing you do, of course, is make sure you've got McLellan signed and Yawney signed, and they're being quiet. They're not saying anything. And then you go about doing what you got to do at your end.
Lalonde was in his third season as the head coach of the Red Wings. He did not make the playoffs in the first two, though they were eliminated on the final night of the regular season last year. But this season, probably one of the biggest single disappointments in the NHL. 13, 17, and 4 as we come out of the break. They're 15th in the Eastern Conference, and they're in the midst of a 3-game losing streak that saw them lose back-to-back games to Montreal and then were shut out against St. Louis on Monday in a game that they only had 19 shots. So it's not like the handwriting wasn't on the wall here.
No, and we've been talking about this on Wraparound several times, that we thought that Laviolette and Lalonde were both perhaps in trouble. And, when you're in your third season of coaching a team and you're going backwards, that's bad. You know that something's going to happen because you're supposed to be, edging forward at least every year. And I once heard Steve Yzerman say that the playoffs, this was 2 years ago, weren't necessarily the benchmark, but he wants to see improvement every year. Well, this year, as you just finished saying, was a huge disappointment to everybody who's followed the Red Wings and is waiting to see if the Red Wings can get back into the playoffs because they're way out of it now. And I don't personally think there's any hope for them this season.
Just to give you some numbers here, coming out of the break, the cutoff to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, and you know that this is one of my favorite things, is the old points projection, is 91.6, so rounded up to 92. And in order for the Red Wings to do that, they will need 62 points in their final 48 games. So that's 14 games over the 500 mark. So like you said, a really daunting task. But it's not like this team is short on talent, starting with their captain, Dylan Larkin. Lucas Raymond is having a good year so far. Alex DeBrincat is a goal scorer, solid on defense with Moritz Seider and the injured Simon Edmondson. And also they have Patrick Kane and they have Vladimir Tarasenko, who have 5 Stanley Cups between them. So it's not like they don't have the foundation of a solid team here. And it's just unfortunate that Lalonde was not able to really get the best out of that group.
Yeah, and Steve is close to the situation and can tell. And, unfortunately, Derek wasn't able to do it with this group. He probably will get another shot somewhere else. But Todd McLellan's had many shots, and he has had some conservative success with teams. I mean, he's never been to the final, but been to the semifinal before. And he seems to be able to stay in a place a long time. He was a long time with the Sharks. He was a long time with the Kings. He was in Edmonton for a number of years. So we'll see what he can get done there. But 2 very experienced guys in McLellan and Yanni, that's for sure.
He's 2 wins shy of 600 in his career, probably brings some more structure to the club than what they had previous. So where do you start here? You're 15th in the conference, as we'd mentioned before. You're going to have to probably jump half a dozen teams in order to get into the wild card. So what's the first thing, if you're Yzerman, what's the first thing that you're looking for from your new head coach?
I just want to see us playing better. And I don't think Steve has any naivete that they can make the playoffs. I think what he would like to see is a good 40-game run here, meaning, have a over 500 record and go into the offseason with optimism that you've got the right guy behind the bench and that you've got a group that can win. I would be surprised if Patrick Kane is back again next year. The way he's skating, he doesn't seem to be the same guy.
No,
his hips are bothering him a lot. So we'll see. I think Steve will just look to see a better play and get the fans and the ownership and everybody else excited about the future of the Red Wings, rather than right now the way everybody is they're wondering, well, are we any good or are we no good? Or I thought we were getting better and all of a sudden we're not. So I think he'll want to show everybody that they do have a core that can make the playoffs.
As there was familiarity with Derek Lalonde for Yzerman from the days in Tampa, there's also familiarity with McLellan, who was an assistant for Mike Babcock for 3 years, from 2005 to 2008 as an assistant, and the Wings won the Cup in 2008, so he has a Cup ring from them. And also during that time, Yzerman played his last NHL season with McLellan behind that bench in 05-06.
Right. So there is some familiarity there. And I know I text Ken Holland about this, and he said right away, yeah, Todd McLellan back with the Red Wings, in his text back to me. So, I know he's a popular guy. I mean, he's a well-liked guy, Todd McLellan, by people. So I'm sure he'll be welcome back with open arms back in Detroit, and let's see what they can do.
2 pretty good tests right out of the gate for McLellan, now back behind the Red Wings bench Friday against Toronto and Sunday against Washington, 2 teams certain to make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, that's going to be those are 2 hard games, and McLellan will get thrown right into the rivalry of the Red Wings and the Maple Leafs. And the Maple Leafs, we won't get into them, but you never know what you're going to get. So the Red Wings could get their first victory in their first game, or they could get spanked by Toronto, because you just don't know with Toronto.
What else are you looking at this weekend as the NHL resumes their schedule Friday?
I like a really good matchup that's the first of a home and home on Friday night is Carolina at New Jersey. The league's doing a lot of these home and home games. It seems like Tampa, Florida just completed a set that was really quite entertaining games in Tampa and then down in South Florida. But this is Carolina at New Jersey on Friday night, and then of course they Saturday night it's Carolina. that's going to be two good teams, two Eastern teams that are really good. I'm going to be anxious to see those games. I also seeing Edmonton at LA. There's something about Edmonton and LA. I mean, it goes all the way back to the game of the what was that called when they came all the way back on Edmonton, Manchester.
The Miracle on Manchester.
Miracle on Manchester. 1982. Yeah, when that happened, and Edmonton, LA. I don't know. It's always intriguing. And then you've got Ottawa, Winnipeg, and the reason I picked that out, other than it's an all Canadian match, is I want to see where is Ottawa? Like how, Ottawa's surprised a lot of people in the last month, and let's see how they do. A lot of it will revolve around Ullmark, and is he healthy now that he had this break, and is his back in shape, and so on. And the other one on Saturday night to look for is Washington in Toronto. First of all, it's a great matchup of two teams that play a little bit differently. Washington's much more of a grinded out team. But will Ovechkin be back for Washington finally after being hurt against the Utah Hockey Club? And will Auston Matthews be back for Toronto? I think you think it's a better bet that Ovechkin's back than Matthews is back.
It certainly seems that way. That I think the Caps were almost leaning towards getting Ovechkin back before the break, but you get another 3-4 days rest. Why not give it a little bit more time to heal? Make sure he's 100% ready to go, as opposed to maybe 98%.
What ones are you going to be watching over the weekend?
On Friday, in addition to that Carolina Jersey home and home opening up, I'm looking at Minnesota and Dallas, and moreover than anything else, both teams are kind of wobbling a little bit in the Central Division, and I'm going to be looking to see which team kind of pulls out of their little funk first. On Saturday, Philadelphia at Anaheim. Why? Well, this is the first meeting since the Ducks' Cutter Gauthier forced a deal after refusing to play with the Flyers. He was the 5th overall pick by Philadelphia in 2022, and then decided that he didn't want to play there. So let's see if there's a little bit of retribution from the orange and black in that game. And by the way, they will come back and they will play in Philadelphia, where I'm sure there's a warm greeting awaiting Gauthier on January 11th. And another game that I'm looking at on Saturday, the Rangers in Tampa, if nothing else, just to see if the train wreck continues in New York. And on Sunday, I'm looking at the Islanders in Pittsburgh. This will be the second of a home and home series. And with those two teams, can Pittsburgh continue to make their push towards a playoff spot, as unlikely as it seemed at the start of the season? Can the Islanders figure out anything with their special teams now that they are healthy again?
And that might be quite an ask about Islanders and their special teams. I read a stat the other day that the Florida Panthers are scoring at a rate just less than what the Islanders are killing penalties. So they're getting shorthanded goals 10% of the time, and Islanders are killing penalties 12% of the time. Imagine that. It's insane.
Astonishing.
It is.
It is astonishing. So with that, we're going to wrap up our show. Just one other note heading into this weekend, that the trade freeze expires at midnight Friday / 12:01 Saturday morning. So we'll see if any deals are coming out of the holiday break. And on Monday, we're looking to have a guest that will talk more Red Wings as the Detroit team begins a new era with Todd McLellan behind their bench. Please don't forget to subscribe, like us. We are available on all platforms. And on behalf of Neil, I'm Vic, and we will speak to you on NHL Wraparound on Monday.